Anime differs in some key ways from Western animation when it comes to the nature of the relationships that are presented on screen. Western media tends to focus upon romantic or sexual relationships depending on the primary demographic of the audience as key motivating factors for the characters. This translates in cartoons to main characters that are looking to find romance as the principal or most important interpersonal relationship that a character can achieve. Anime, on the other hand, prioritizes friendship as key motivating factors for the things characters do, and the most important type of relationship. Now, this isn't to say that cartoons aren't about friendship and anime doesn't have plenty of romance, because it does, but the treatment of these elements in each medium is quite different. Before we continue, let's talk briefly about fan service. Anime can have much more sexual fan service than is seen in cartoons. It is a trope in Japanese animation. In fact, there are a plethora of anime-specific and cartoon-specific tropes that will be touched upon in this series. Now, this fan service can be viewed as pointing to some type of romantic or sexual preponderancy in anime. However, if we review both mediums, cartoons and anime, intertextually, anime spends far more time showing, explaining, and building the significance of friendships over romance than in cartoons. Even for anime that predominantly features romance, there is far more parity between the level of time spent developing friendships versus romances. Time is spent with characters learning to like each other. Time is spent with characters confessing what one means to the other as a friend. You'll see depictions of characters thanking each other for who they are and how they've helped them, explaining each other's strengths and weaknesses. You'll see them go through difficult trials together by growing closer. They'll cry over one another. This can occur in conjunction with a burgeoning romance, but usually romance is something that is achieved by one character through a confession after a culmination of auspicious encounters when one character will bump into her crush, or one character actively trying to help another character through some difficult trial or examination in life. Not something the narrative actively spends time developing, unless the anime is of the romantic genre. Cartoons, on the other hand, spend far less time describing or showing the importance or meaning of the characters' friendships. Friendship is always implied in cartoons by characters spending time together or through adventure rather than saying it. They usually don't ever discuss between characters why they're glad they're friends beyond announcing they're friends or becoming part of the unit. Characters don't have an internal dialogue about the significance of their friends. Characters may get in arguments which are resolved with minor confessions of apology, maybe a hug. They may express loneliness without their friends, but friendship in cartoons are rarely things that are given development or have an arc, for example, in the ways that they spend time on romance and characters' feelings toward their attractions and how those feelings translate into actions.
So Tornado built this android to party. Not how he'd put it, but yeah, more or less.
Entertaining.
Would you cut it?
Ooh. Look, they are dancing.
Yo!
A crazy man poisoned me, and now I can't dress myself, or cook for myself, or do anything for myself. And this whole time, my friends have been off helping the world while I'm stuck with you, and you can't even heal me!
Mermista lipstick.
Ew, do you know what that stuff is made of? I'll be this knife.
I feel like perfume should be the perfume bottle. That makes the most logical sense.
Maybe I could be a flower.
Can I be this miniature painted model of Bo?
No!
You're back!
Oh, you know it! Now let's go destroy something else! I don't even care what it is!
This is the extent of cartoon friendships. They spend time, but the characters rarely verbalize their feelings toward their peers, while when a significant other is presented, they begin mulling over them. Anime, on the other hand, really goes deep with friendships. They spend far more time describing friendships than romance.
You know what else I think? Deep down, you're a smiley, fun, super cheerful guy.
Were you trying to tell us that you like heroes? Was that it? Well, 'cause I like them too. They're so awesome.
You talked to me when no one else would. And I remember thinking how warm you were, how bright. You were shining.
君は僕に似ているんだ。僕も体と個性が合ってないんだ。以前から似てると思ってたんだ。サプライズは嬉しいだろ。僕はサプライズが何よりも嬉しいのさ。僕が嬉しいと思うことをしたのさ。どうだい？チーズ美味しかったかい？
あれ食べる勇気ないよ。ありがとう。サプライズ大成功だよ、青山くん。やった俺の勝ち。何言ってんだ、俺の方が早かっただろ。よーいドン Because we're friends. Do you hear me, Gon? I can't help him anymore!
戦いがあったというもんだ。褒めていただいてるぞ。
一生ものよ。
だってさ、ムサ、一生ものだって。ムサ。
ムサなら断れないと踏みやがった。
ユキ先輩も一緒に走りましょ
う。無理。俺には俺の時間が必要なの。
ニコちゃん先輩は
朝夕だけで十分。
そうだぞ。いたわれ年寄りを。
自己紹介して。はい。篠本明穂です。よろしくお願いします。このこといろいろ教えてあげてね。あと日直や入るのは来週。可愛い方ですね。すごく。
In popular anime-inspired cartoons, the parity between friendship and romance is far less equitable in the description of or development of those themes, leaning more heavily toward romance. There is no becoming of friends in a cartoon like there is a becoming for romances that may take many episodes to evolve. Now granted, there really isn't a romance genre of cartoons in Western animation, but this is what we have. Cartoons tend to establish the intensity or significance of friendships through time spent around each other, usefulness in battle in the action genre, cracking jokes, overcoming a disagreement, and more recently in anime-inspired cartoons like The Legend of Korra or She-Ra, confessions of trauma. But rarely do these heart-to-hearts have anything to do with the plutonic peer, nor do the characters articulate the positive feelings that they may have for that character. It is merely implied. In Avatar: The Last Airbender, an Asian-inspired program for instance, we know little about Aang's feelings toward his friends Sokka, Toph, and Suki, other than his decision to call them friends and the times the program shows them having fun together or looking out for one another. In fact, the plutonic relationship that Aang spends the most time describing or showing affection toward is Appa, and he's a flying bison. Zuko has the longest friendship arc in the series, but we never see Aang or any of the characters declare or indicate their plutonic affections for Zuko in any way. He simply went from an untrusted character to a trusted character who is now part of the unit. Same could be said of Korra and her strictly plutonic friendships. And this is true of most American animation. They don't have internal conversations about their friends, i.e., I'm so glad he's my friend. She's so awesome or amazing. They're always there for me. As an exception, Steven Universe did a pretty good job with this. However, his friend group also basically raised him, so it kind of doesn't count. In short, anime and cartoons, when it comes to romance and friendship, they have show and tell. In cartoons, there is some show and little tell when it comes to friendships. Anime has big show and big tell. In romances, Cartoons have Big Show and Big Tell, relative their depiction of friendship. While in anime, in the non-romantic genres of anime, of course, we have Little Show and Some Tell relative their depictions of friendship. This reality is a complex one. Why doesn't Western animation portray friendship in equally nuanced, meaningful ways as the East's anime? Why don't the characters tell each other why they care about each other? Why don't they cry over one another? This reality may stem from a difference in the cultural ethic of the West and the East. Friendship in Asian cultures seem to be in media depictions of friendship as more of a virtuous character trait, which may be why it is represented so frequently in anime. Romantic attractions are inherently more mature and emotionally complex, which in many ways make them unsuitable for programming made for kids and adolescents. But romantic attractions are also inherently more selfish and individualistic than friendships. Friendship doesn't normally have a sexual component. Therefore, there is less of a priority on the needs of one party over the other at times, and are essentially more altruistic. Additionally, it makes sense to have more depictions of friendship because over the course of a lifetime, anyone will have exponentially more friendships than romantic partners. Western culture may de-emphasize friendships in their writings because of Western individualism and American exceptionalism. One of the main tenets of Western cultural ethic is the belief that an individual can reach their highest potential on their own. They can have all that they desire if they work hard and they're a good person and they know the right people. Often the highest form of this ethic is represented through the obtaining of a great job, a big house, and yes, a significant other, actualizing the one true love fantasy which is often sold to children in Western media. This is individualism. This ideology lends itself to placing a high importance on romance as a man or woman's greatest interpersonal achievement and less importance on friendships because they're less about the individual and more about the collective, outside of the volume of friendships that a person can acquire, which can be seen as a symbol of high status in Western society. While Asian cultures are more collectivistic, meaning the whole is more important than the individual. This lends itself to more close, more exclusive groups of friends where affections are more apparent and intimate, as some social research has indicated about friendships in Asian cultures. Even the highest form of Western virtue, the Christian faith, has bended to this type of individualistic framework. This video is essentially about different types of love, friendship, and romance. And love in the original Greek of the Bible was at least 3 different words, eros, philos, and agape, which in the original King James Bible was translated into 2 different words, love and charity. Charity meaning acts of service, affection through giving. It has a more altruistic and unconditional meaning and is inherently a more virtuous and godly form of love. That's translated from the word agape. However, nearly all, probably all, later and recent translations of the Bible have translated that word into love. And that's an issue when the same term love is used in the Bible conflating eros love, a physical, sexual, and romantic type of love, with agape, a sacrificial and divine type of love, when they're intended to be 2 different words. No wonder people are confused. No wonder Western cartoons have an issue portraying intimate brotherly, familiar, or platonic love as in philos, when people relate love with, well, romance and sex. There is even somewhat of a trend in anime-inspired animation that when 2 platonic characters, often of the same sex, become too close or affectionate in their friendship, the showrunners make them gay, which is fine in its own way, but also somewhat suggests that platonic affections cannot run that deep. The more you learn about the topic, really, the weirder the phrase making love is. On the other hand, Japanese and other Asian languages don't really use the term love, if they have a term for it at all. These cultures may have many other terms to describe feelings of affection or romance toward others, particularly of platonic affections. And possibly as a result, they do have more nuanced depictions in anime of these kinds of more virtuous love, i.e., friendship. The ability to show deep friendship in cartoons or anime for that matter in a meaningful way doesn't make any program either good or bad. Nor does it mean romance is inherently more important than friendship, or vice versa. But it is telling why people flock to anime for these kinds of depictions of friendship. Depictions that are not often seen in Western media, cartoons, or even in the Asian-inspired sect of Western animation. And that is a key difference.